market a few minutes ago before you called in, and I was looking at the price of gold. The last time you were here, you told us that we would be entering the bottom of the gold market. Has that happened? Are we there now?
No, that cycle bottoms in July, and I don't remember exactly what I said, but on different occasions I said we could go $100 lower. That would bring us to 1160, and we intend to go long. We sold all our gold at 1900, which was the price target, and we're going to buy, if nothing changes, I don't think it will, around 1150, 60, or when the cycle bottoms in a few weeks.
Okay, so we are in the final stages of the gold cycle starting to hit its bottom. We're actually watching it happen.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. And so you're saying it's going to bottom in what, mid-July?
Well, I tell you, I use the quarterly chart, which means it's like a bar chart. Every bar is a quarter, and it's actually the quarter starting in June, July, August. So, but it seems to be July if we do some fine tuning. It seems to be the end of June, beginning of July.
Okay, and you're saying it's probably going to reach somewhere around 1150, 1160?
I said that's the maximum risk. That was the price target. I think we once hit 1190 or so. We almost got there before we bounced back to 1300. Today, I don't know what has happened. I think it's like 1250, 1260. So you have a risk of $100, but you don't have to take the risk because there's still time, because my cycles still show that the direction is down. And the price target has not been reached, so nobody's in a hurry to buy for the moment.
All right, yeah. A few minutes ago, I think it was at 1259, and silver was around 1907. Okay, so obviously, if the bottom is late June, early July, then the ascent will start at approximately what time?
What do you mean, what time?
Yeah, I mean, what date? I mean, in terms of this summer.
Once we get in June, you should take a look at the research. By the way, we give it out a trial period for free, and it's a very interesting situation. So what happens is we have these quarterly cycles, monthly cycles, weekly, daily, and when we get closer, then we go to the daily cycle, and then we'll pinpoint the day of the low. So then we don't have to say, well, it will be the end of June or the beginning of July. Then in the research, we'll tell you exactly which day you want to buy.
All right. And by the way, you mentioned our listeners can get a free sample. Where do they go on the Internet to get that free sample?
They get more than a sample. It's called Charles Nenner, with double N, NENNER.com. And they will get it for several weeks or months. It comes out four times a week. And they can check for themselves if they think it's valuable or not.
All right. CharlesNenner.com. Okay, so the climb upward in the price of gold is obviously going to start sometime in July. How steep of an increase? Are we going to see a dramatic, rapid increase, or is this just going to be a steady climb upward?
We probably go start with a rapid move up because there's still a lot of people short in gold. But my first price target is 2,100. That could take a year until we're there, but it's a long-term bull market, so we can also go after that to 3,500. So it's a good place to be. We sold all our stocks because our cycles are showing a high in the markets, and we got in March 2009, so we have a very nice profit, and it's very hard to see which stock will come down first when it starts the correction, so we're totally out of the stock market. We're in cash. I always like to be in cash until we make a decision, so now we can watch the other markets with a peaceful mind. And I think the danger level is very high on the stocks.
When do you expect to see a correction in the stock market?
Also in June. I'll be writing all the time that somewhere in the middle of June, 30th of June, could be a very important high. And maybe you remember, or you don't, I was quoted once in the New York Times because they asked Mr. Prechter from the Elliott wave, what do you think the Dow Jones is going? And he said 1,000. Well, he is always saying 1,000. And then they called me, so I calculated it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. And I came up with 5,000 in 2020. So I think we're going to see some difficult times for the next 5-6 years with lower prices.
Did you say 5,000 in
5,000, yeah.
That's a steep drop.
Yeah. So if it's going to be a war or it's going to be what I always think, deflation, I think we're on the edge of deflation, especially in Europe, which is very bad for the stock market. So I don't know from which corner it's going to come, but that's not really what we do. We want to know what's going to happen and when, and later we'll see why it happened.
All right, James Rickards, Currency Wars. Money. He stated recently, and I think this was on Greg Hunter's program, that events are moving faster in 2014 than he previously anticipated. Experts that I talked to on this program, Mr. Rickards, things that he expected to happen in the 2015 to 2016 range may happen before 2014 is over. Are you anticipating that things are speeding up and that we're headed towards some very major financial calamities this year?
I don't think so, because I tell you honestly, my system shows that we could have a GDP of around 3% before we start going into recession. And if we don't have a major war and we have a GDP of 3%, then even with some deflation, I think there's not going to be a crisis. So I think it's too early. It's going to be next year. Another interesting point is, as you maybe know, is I work a lot with the sunspots intensity. I look what the sunspots are going to do. We build it into a cycle. Now, for listeners who don't know, it creates an electromagnetic field down here in the world, which influences water very much. Everything, but especially water. And since our brains are like 80% water, we're very much influenced in our behavior by the intensity of the sun. And there's a very important high in 2015. The other highs were 2007, as you know, and in 2000. So there's something we can expect that's going to happen.
And what happens during those highs?
Well, in the highs, you get the exuberance, actually what Greenspan says, that like normally speaking, a market shouldn't go up. People are out of their mind. And that's because of the high intensity of the sunspots. Whatever could go wrong, they don't think about it. Now, when the sunspot intensity becomes low, whatever they can come up with that can go wrong, goes wrong. I sometimes give an example. When Carter was president, it was a very bad sunspot situation. And even, there was a collision of the helicopters in Iran when they tried to get the people out. And when Reagan came, the sunspot looked great. So whatever Reagan maybe didn't do correctly, he said, he left because nobody cared because of the situation with the sunspot intensity. So into the top of 2000, there was a very high correlation, and nobody could see anything wrong. I remember at that time I was at Goldman Sachs in New York, after been there for 15 years, and we talked about Cisco, and they had a forecast for Cisco, and I said it can't be, because if this is the forecast over a couple of years, then Cisco is going to make more than the whole GDP of the United States. So that's how crazy it got. Don't think that the professionals are not being drawn into thinking nonsense. Everybody is thinking nonsense at such a moment. So for now, everything looks okay. And when the sunspot intensity gets lower, then suddenly they start thinking, what about this problem? What about that problem? And stocks will sell off.
And this is interesting because the sun is behaving very weirdly in the past year. I've seen numerous articles. I've talked to scientists on this program where they've said there are no scientists alive who've ever seen this type of solar activity. We were supposed to be at the peak of the solar cycle, and it turned out to be a dud. And now a lot of scientists are now concerned that the next cycle that the sun is going into may almost be non-existent. The next cycle would be the solar minimum. And if the solar maximum is a dud, it just goes to reason that the solar minimum is going to be even lighter. And there are some scientists who believe that there may not be any sunspot activity in the next cycle.
Well, we have that all. If people sign up for a trial, they can ask, and we will send them out our cycles on the sunspots that are available, and they can see for themselves. We visualize it, and we show them what we see. They don't have to take our word for it. And indeed, there are very strange things going on. So
when the sunspots are low or non-existent, the general population kind of like snaps out of their delusion, looks around and goes, "Oh, yuck."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just interesting. Mass psychology.
You have problems like in Syria, Ukraine. The stock market didn't react in Ukraine, but if the sunspots would look differently, then everybody would be very worried and the market would have sold off.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. You can visit us on www.therealthingmean.webs.com.